You are listening to Deep Dive Divas, episode 055, Who Let the Dogs Out? Please follow us online and review the program using the links in this episode's show notes, you coward.
In an interview with Vice, the Baja Men admitted that they don't really remember the words to Who Let the Dogs Out, and that they have to, quote, fake their way through it when they play it live. I think aside from the chorus, most people who know the song struggle to recount the lyrics of it. Owen, I would like you to recite them for us in the dramatic tone of your choosing.
Well, the party was nice. The party was pumping, and everybody's having a ball. I tell the fellas, start the name calling. The girls respond to the call. I heard a woman shout out, "Who let the dogs out?" I see the dance people at a ball, 'cause she really want to skip town. Get back, Gruffy. Back, Scruffy. Get back, you flea-infested mongrel. Gonna tell myself, hey man, no get angry. To any girls calling them canine. But they tell me, hey man, it's part of the party. You put a woman in front and her man behind. I heard a woman shout out, "Who let the dogs out?" Say, a doggy's nothing if you don't have a bone. All doggy, hold your bone. All doggy, hold it. Who let the dogs out? Well, if I'm a dog, the party's on. I gotta get my groove, 'cause my mind on gone. Do you see the rays coming from my eye? Walking through the place. That Digiman is breaking it down. Me and my white short shorts. And I can't see color. Any color will do. I'll stick on you. That's why they call me Pitbull. 'Cause I'm the man of the land. When they see me, they say, who? Who let the dogs out?
I know Pitbull got a shout out.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide!
You like him?
No.
This is Deep Dive Divas, where every 55th episode, O and I listen to and discuss a confusing tropical 2000s one-hit wonder and share our findings with you. How's things?
Good.
It's May.
Yep.
It was gonna be May, and now it is May.
May flowers bring spring flowers.
That's what they say.
I haven't had a shower in... Oof.
Well, wait till next April. How were you first exposed to Who Let the Dogs Out?
I actually think from the Smurfs Just Dance version.
What?
Yeah. They had a Just Dance where it was literally just Dance. It didn't only like include songs from the Smurfs. And Gargamel's like dancing on. It's pretty awesome.
If there's any reason Western civilization should end, I think it's because we've devolved to such a place where
Gargamel's breaking it down.
Where there's a Smurfs edition of Just Dance.
I just love the Smurfs so much.
Well, I think most people's association with the song is probably from hearing it in a movie or a video game or television show. It's everywhere. So how do we get to this point? Follow me back, if you will, to 1998, when a composer and musician from Trinidad named Anselm Douglas recorded a song called Doggy.
The party was late, the party was pumping. Hey, yippee-yi-yo, and everybody having a ball. Yeah, man, yippee-yi-yo, until the man start the name calling. Oh, yeah, yippee-yi-yo, then them girl respond to the call. I hear a woman shout out, who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? That's how in the dance, and I walk on me Millie Bug and Skettle. Get back, Fluffy, mash Fluffy, get back, you flea-infested mongrel. Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
He says that the song is a call to men to call out their bad behavior and the practice of catcalling women on the street. He said, quote, "It's a man-bashing song." Anselm Douglas has said since the beginning that he didn't come up with this phrase. It was something that his brother-in-law said and told him that he should make it into a song. Anselm Douglas is perpetually credited as the writer of the song Who Let the Dogs Out. Well, this song, Doggy, was shortly thereafter covered by an English producer and singer named Jonathan King under the name Fat Jack and His Pack of Pets.
Everybody was bumping. And everybody having a ball. Yeah, man. Until the man named Doctor named calling. Oh, yeah. And every girl responded and called. I hear a woman shout out. Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
He heard the song from his hairdresser, one Keith Wainwright, who loved steel drum music and would go to the Caribbean and come back with lots of music from there and play it in his salon called Smile. So this Jonathan King was getting his haircut there, and he heard the song and decided, I'm going to do a cover version of it. Who is this Jonathan King guy? He is the gentleman who is credited as the person who discovered the band Genesis. He also produced their first record. He was one of the first early investors in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and he also worked with 10cc and the Bay City Rollers.
Wow.
SATURDAY. Night. He had a hit of his own in 1965 entitled Everyone's Gone to the Moon. Well, Jonathan King quickly found that everyone's also gone to prison when in 2001 he was found guilty of abusing 5 teenage boys sexually. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison, but was released on parole in 2005 and was found not guilty in subsequent charges before his remaining charges were all dropped ultimately.
Who let that dog out?
Yeah. It's a good, well, it sounds like the court and judicial system of England. Before his time in prison, but not long before it, Jonathan King showed his cover and the original song to his friend and eventual manager of the Jonas Brothers, one Steven Greenberg. Steve Greenberg was working with a group from the Bahamas called Baha Men. This is an example of a band that doesn't have a "the" in front of it. They are simply Baha Men at the time. And
well, this time they were only Baha Boys.
The thing is, most of Baha Men are pretty old. So even at this time, they were probably approaching 40. And Steve Greenberg said, "Y'all got to cover this." The Baha Men really did not want to cover this song. They thought it was silly and had no interest in taking it up. So who are these folks? They are a band from New Providence, Bahamas, who have been making music since 1977.
Wow.
Yeah. They go way, way back. There are 11 Baha Men records. That's a little nuanced. There are actually 9 credited as Baha Men, and then 2 under their name before Baha Men, High Voltage, but it was the same band.
Okay.
Who Let the Dogs Out was on their 8th record. That's also what the name of the album is entitled. And their most recent record came out in 2015 entitled Ride With Me. So it's been a decade where we have not had a single Baha Men release. I think things have just been getting worse ever since 2015. Yeah. So I think 2025 might be the year.
Baha Boys, we need you.
I should say, Who Let the Dogs Out was kind of a hit in the Caribbean. They knew of the song before Fat Jack and his Pack of Pets covered it and everything. Ansel Adams was kind of a fairly big artist in the Caribbean at that time. There are 11 listed members of the Baha Men, but a chap named Isaiah Taylor seems to be the leader and percussionist of the group. He is not the lead singer of the group, and that's not who you're hearing on Who Let the Dogs Out. They hired 3 young guys basically for this album. Now, the Baha Men are typically regarded as a junkanoo band. Have you ever heard this term?
No.
So junkanoo, neither had I, is a term to basically describe festival music, not unlike carnival music, that happens in many of the tropical places that Brits colonized, like Jamaica, the Carolinas, Belize, and of course, the Bahamas. It's celebrated oftentimes around Christmas time and features parades and parties. Junkanoo music comes from this, and it is super percussive. It uses West African rhythms and today has elements of calypso, soca, and reggae in it. Baha Men started as a band called High Voltage, as I had mentioned, and they mostly played disco in nightclubs and hotels. One of their demo tapes made it to Atlantic Records in 1991, and Steve Greenberg, one of the A&R representatives of Atlantic Records, heard them and signed them to a subsidiary of Atlantic Records called Big Beat. He also got them to change their name to Baha Men in 1991. Throughout the 90s, they had some local hits and even a pretty big international one called Dancing in the Moonlight. Not any of the versions you're thinking of.
Everybody here is out of sight. They don't bark and they don't bite. They keep things loose, they keep things light. Everybody was dancing in the moonlight. Dancing in the moonlight. Everybody's feeling warm and right. It's such a fine and natural sight. Everybody's dancing in the.
Steve Greenberg encouraged them to leave Big Beat and to sign with Polygram because he was leaving Big Beat and Atlantic Records and going to work for Polygram. And they make 2 albums together and then they are dropped from Polygram. And it is the Baha Men that leave Steve Greenberg to form S-Curve Records.
Really?
S-Curve Records has worked with everyone from Hanson to Duran Duran to, of course, the Jonas Brothers to Tom Jones and Leslie Odom Jr. Like a very serious record label. And the reason Steve Greenberg is on record saying this, the reason he formed that record label was so that he could put out Who Let the Dogs Out. Isaiah Taylor, the leader of Baha Men, is very grateful to Steve. And he said, quote, "Steve will always be a part of the Baha Men." Always.
Oh.
And we're back.
Welcome back to the NPR Sports segment where we're talking about Lost in Translation.
Bill Murray,
Man,
Scarlett Johansson.
let me just say, I got really lost in translation for this one because I watched the Italian version.
Did you
And
really?
it was very confusing, yeah.
Why did you do that?
Because I was lost in translation. I was trying to I had a piece of paper and I was trying to translate it. I only know a couple words of Italian, so it was like,
We tell jokes on this show sometimes.
Oh.
I can't tell if this is one of those or not.
I swear.
Did you actually watch the Italian version of Lost
I did
in
not
Translation?
watch the English version of Lost in Translation.
That did not answer my question.
I
Did you
watched the
watch
Italian version of Lost in Translation.
So you don't really know what this movie's about.
I know that Bill Murray's in it.
Mm-hmm.
I could make that out.
Okay, well, you know what it's about.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I love this movie. I think
Yeah.
it's fantastic. Again, all things you wouldn't get from it, but I think the way it depicts isolation and the way...
I was isolated already.
Actually, you might get it better than anyone else did.
Yeah, I was sitting there and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, you can't connect with
I
anyone.
was like, this isn't Caddyshack.
Yeah, that's the probably the most commonly said thing about Lost in Translation. It's not Caddyshack.
It's not Caddyshack.
Yeah, I think great performances. I think it's great writing. I think Tokyo seems like an interesting place to visit as a result. Good place to get.
I was in
whiskey.
Tokyo.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell.
Where did you think it took place?
I figured Italy because they were speaking Italian.
That's a good bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Most of that movie is.
But I'll just say this. Why did Bill Murray sound so different in this?
Yeah.
Both Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson sounded nothing like themselves.
Yeah. Well, they were younger, you know.
I guess.
What are we watching next month? Did you? I don't believe you actually watched this movie.
What do you think? Take a guess.
I just told you that you didn't watch this movie.
I watched Lost in Translation in Italian.
Where
and
do you
I
get an
didn't
Italian
understand.
copy of
Where do you
Lost in
think?
Translation?
Internet
Archive? Yeah, okay. That
They have the
does
dub
track.
versions.
Yeah. What are we watching next month?
Hopefully something in English. I don't know why you made me do that. I don't know.
Wait, so we just watched La Strada in
Oh.
Italian.
Yeah.
That makes
I just
sense.
couldn't get enough.
Join us in June as we watch Sorry to Bother You
In English.
en inglés. In in 2000, Steve Greenberg, S-Curve Records, Baha Men, they put out their version of Who Let the Dogs Out, and it becomes an instant hit in the United States and the UK, especially after it was featured in Men in Black 2 and Rugrats in Paris, the movie. Those are two very different demographics. I don't think a lot of people were seeing both of those things at the time.
Each episode, we like to highlight the up-and-coming work of a discography developing diva. Today, that is Beware, Beware. Beware, Beware were our guests on an episode in Season 1, and they're back, baby, all the way from Manchester, England. Howdy, y'all. They also just put out another single entitled My Honey, and I wouldn't be too terribly surprised if we see these on a full-length album by this band. They didn't say that, but I'm saying it, and I sure hope I'm right. It is now time to stand under my umbrella, Ella, with Beware Beware and their track, Disco. You can hear more from Beware Beware. Visit our shop and social media pages, contact us, view our citations, and so much more by using the links in this episode's show notes.
It was one of the highest selling singles in the 2000s to never make it to number one on the Billboard Hot 100. That's impressive. It did go to number one in Australia, New Zealand, and the UK indie chart.
Oh, in indie, really? Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
S-Curve Records was the first song they ever put out. You know, it's still I guess an indie
independent
thing.
Yeah.
And the Seattle Mariners also had a heck of a run the year of 2000, and the song became a soundtrack of their playoff run where they would play it throughout the stadium, and people were all about it, you know?
Yeah. And what happened to the Mariners?
They did not win that year.
They did not win, and they haven't won ever. The only MLB team to never make it to the World Series. Sorry, there's teams that haven't won it, but they've never even made it.
Well, they won.
So we could say Baja Men is responsible.
I don't
for that.
think that's true. I think they won in the sense that they get to be from the same state in which Twilight is set.
Yeah.
In 2001, Who Let the Dogs Out won the Best Dance Recording Grammy. It also won the Billboard Music Award for World Music Album of the Year and World Music Artist of the Year. So these guys are racking up awards left and right in 2001. Most importantly, it took the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award home for favorite song. And then the following year, even though Who Let the Dogs Out was 2 years old at this point, the Baha Men won favorite band Kids' Choice Award.
Oh, wait, did they get slimed?
The Baha Men were not slimed. In 2007, Rolling Stone named Who Let the Dogs Out. This is 7 years into its legacy. Number 3 on their most annoying songs out of 20 list. And Spinner magazine named it the worst song of all time the following year. And that's the story of the Baha Men and Who Let the Dogs Out.
Well, the Baja Men. I've had a Baja blast.
Except it's not. The story of Who Let the Dogs Out is an intricate, confusing, mysterious, and deceptive one. Follow me back, if you will, to the true origins of Who Let the Dogs Out in the year of 1995.
I like this. This is like a twist.
5 years before the Baha Men recorded their version. Canadians? I bet you didn't think we were going there.
I was hoping not.
Back when they still had any money before the tariffs were enacted. Patrick Stevenson and Leroy Williams wrote the chorus for a radio jingle for WBLK, a radio station in Buffalo, New York, that sounded like this. These two fellows took absolutely no precautions to protect this recording, and they were unaware that anyone cared about it until 5 years later when the Baha Men version was getting airplay on the radio. You remember that fellow in the beginning, Anselm Douglas? Mm-hmm. Do you remember where he got the term Who Let the Dogs Out?
Mm-hmm. Oh, from his brother-in-law.
From his brother-in-law, who told him to make that phrase into a song, who was the DJ for radio station WBLK in 1995. This same year, American musicians Gillette and 20 Fingers put out a song entitled You're a Dog, whose chorus asks, who let the dogs loose? She kind of sounds like Paula Abdul and has that sort of like vibe going on.
Wow.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's like the exact like call and response.
Isn't that pretty wild?
Yeah. That was a rager.
So you have that song comes out. Then a couple months later, the Canadians do that work for the radio station in Buffalo, New York. And that is where Who Let the Dogs Out comes from. Except that would be completely disregarding the fact that in 1992, a teenage rap group from Jacksonville, Florida, confusingly named Miami Boom, recorded a rap song called Who Let the Dogs Out.
Wow. Wait, so we need a timeline because that thing is.
I think you're right. It's very confusing, right? Okay. So let's work backwards, right? 2000, we get the Baha Men's Who Let the Dogs Out.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs?
Which is a cover of 1998 Anselm Douglas's Doggy.
Right.
Who let the
which has kind of been rebranded as Who Let the Dogs Out. In 1995, you have the Canadians working for the Buffalo music station who like have that stinger, right? That same year, slightly before that, you get 20 Fingers and Gillette's
Right.
Who Let Them Dogs
Paul Abdul
Loose.
Copy.
1992, you get Miami Boom, which we just heard.
Okay.
Who Let the Dogs Out.
So there's 8 years from Miami Boom to the release of Who Let
Yes,
the Dogs Out. Okay.
exactly. And that is the story of Who Let the Dogs Out. Except that would be completely disregarding and ignoring the fact that in 1990, the Dowagiac Chieftains, a high school football team from Dowagiac, Michigan, were on fire. Figuratively, not literally. That would have been a tragedy. They ended up taking a run at the state championship, during which the crowd would chant, they ended up winning the state championship that year. Joe Gonzalez, one of the teenagers in Miami Boom, happened to live in Michigan in 1990. And that is where Who Let the Dogs Out came from. Except, believing that would say nothing of the Reagan High School, Keep Austin Weird Texas Texans, and their football team chanting what essentially is the chorus of Who Let the Dogs Out since 1986. So what the hell is going on here? This is now 14 years, at least, of Who Let the Dogs Out being chanted in large capacities, eventually going global. Well,
Yeah, that's
that's a question that folks have been trying to answer since the beginning of time. And by that, I mean about 2010. A decade after the song came out, a journalist named Ben Sisto became intrigued with the song's origins after seeing that on their Wikipedia page for the Baja Men and Who Let the Dogs Out. The song was originally discovered by, quote, Keith. So on this Wikipedia page, it just said the song was initially discovered by Keith.
All right.
And he said, you know, that's an oversight. There's not enough information here. I'm going to find out who this Keith is so that we can all know where the song came from.
it was
and I can
Keith
correct the record.
Richards.
And this
Who
happens,
let them dogs out?
this happens all the time on Wikipedia, where people will find errors and will correct them. And that's one of the great things about the website. And this fellow, Ben Sisto, said, I'm going to correct the record on this. And in trying to figure out who Keith was, he became the world's leading expert on everything regarding this song and its lore. In 2019, he put out the 61-minute-long documentary entitled Who Let the Dogs Out, which premiered at South by Southwest in March of 2019 to further investigate the matter. Ben Sisto is the narrator of the film. He also appears in it throughout it. The documentary is directed by a fellow named Brent Hodge, a Canadian New Zealander who has made documentaries about Chris Farley, the TV show Freaks and Geeks, Bronies, who are the adult fan base of My Little Pony.
You're a brony, correct?
Some of the information from this episode came from Ben Sisto's work. Amazingly, the documentary does not mention that Jonathan King was tried multiple times between 2001 and 2018 for sexual assault on minors, and he even appears in the film being interviewed by Ben Sisto. So he would have had a lot of time to have dug that information up, and it does not appear in the film. I think Ben did amazing work. I am not trying to besmirch him. It's just something that I noticed that is omitted from the documentary. But documentaries, you got to cut certain stuff out, you know, and it probably was not comfortable to admit that this fellow was convicted of assaulting 5 minors sexually. Aside from that, it's a really fun documentary. Ben Sisto has been sent / collected hundreds of physical objects related to Who Let the Dogs Out. And there is a sequence in which he shows Anselm Douglas, the guy who made it a hit in the Caribbean, the original creator of the song, around his apartment, and he's showing him all the Who Let the Dogs Out stuff that he has. And he even plays a vinyl recording of the Gillette 20 Fingers version of Who Let the Dogs Loose. It also details the lawsuits that have occurred around the song with all these people who had a hand in the song being made and the amount of money that has been generated from the song. As you might imagine, there's a lot of lawsuits that come from this.
Right.
Patrick Stevenson and Leroy Williams, the Canadian folks who worked for WBLK in Buffalo, they sue Anselm Douglas. Ozzie Gurley, who is credited as the arranger on Anselm Douglas's version of the song, has also sued Douglas, feeling that he was cut out of the financial rewards of the song when the Baha Men made it a hit. Because the Baha Men credit Anselm Douglas. They say he's the writer of the song. These lawsuits were settled out of court, and we don't know how much for. We don't know how much money they got out of this. Ben Sisto said after investigating this matter for about 10 years, I don't think anybody in this story is lying. You can hear something, and it's just in there subconsciously until it's ready to come out. And I do think that is the case. As of 2020, the fantastic podcast 99% Invisible did an episode about this very thing, and naturally, they include Ben Sisto throughout the whole thing. It's super popular. It's probably the most professional, comprehensive, interesting, and simply the best podcast on the subject. I don't know why you would bother listening to another podcast about Who Let the Dogs Out.
Yeah, neither do I.
It's a complete waste of time. At time of recording now, the 1986 Reagan High School chant seems to be the earliest documented example of the usage of the phrase Who Let the Dogs Out. But I did find in a 2019 article from the Austin American-Statesman a plea reposted from Ben Sisto imploring anyone with earlier evidence of its usage to contact him. I firmly believe that the Reagan, Texas version of this is not the birthplace of the chant. I think there is something earlier than that because of how fully baked this is in those video clips. It seems like something people were really aware of in this area. And I think the truth is out there. And I want to believe that there is an earlier version of Who Let the Dogs Out. I would like to close out this episode by playing a clip from the 2008 presidential hopeful in which Mitt Romney is out on the campaign trail in Jacksonville, Florida, hugging a group of young people.
Who let the dogs out? Who?
What a freak. We hope you have a pleasant and professional month.
Triple D? Who let those dogs out?